Welcome to the Can Thrive series. This is where these two ultra cool guys are going to hang out, we're going to talk story, and we are literally going to invite ourselves, but with positive vibes only, into your own journeys.
We're excited to share our perspectives, experiences, and the experiences of so many individuals we find inspiring in ways that we trust will bring you hope, motivation, and the inspiration to grow and ultimately thrive because, as I say, can. Jason is my coach, a cool Jamaican now living on the island of Kauai. He has launched a coaching platform that blends a scientific approach, drawing from his PhD and background as a former biomedical researcher and medical communications consultant. Jason's now a highly regarded fitness specialist and coach. He focuses on tapping into his clients' sense of strength as they physically and mentally transform and thrive.
Yeah, it's true. I am Andy's coach. This guy isn't an entrepreneur. He's the founder of a local Kauai apparel brand known as Can Period, which is really rooted in the principles of positive psychology. He's also a dedicated nonprofit fundraiser with a background as an elite endurance athlete and somebody who cherishes all the endorphins that are downstream of really challenging physical activities, usually very, very cardio focused. But he's super committed to continually improving in all aspects of his life, and more importantly, in helping others to discover their own spirit of can. Yeah, but what I'm saying is I think that fixed and growth mindsets, sort of that dichotomy also shows up, or resistance also shows up in sort of the framework of a fixed mindset, right? Sure. Resistance, procrastination, avoidance. So all of that stuff, from my perspective, is related in how it sort of manifests in, day-to-day life.
Yeah, it's all connected.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Can Thrive series. Today, Andy and I are going to be tackling something that is very close to heart for me, near and dear to me, but not in a very positive way. And it's a concept of what I now call resistance. You might think of it as avoidance of, or procrastination of, and it's sort of this powerful force that literally all of us experience. Thankfully, I'm not alone. It's sort of in the human condition. It's something that never goes away. Before I dive into sort of my perspective on resistance or procrastination and avoidance, Andy, any initial thoughts?
First, though, I can't wait to hear about the resistance part. I never heard you mention that before. It sounded like resistance training or something. So maybe there's a training component.
I would much rather hop into resistance training than the idea of sort of psychological resistance. But
yeah, well, when we first met, and you reached out to me to say, "Oh, hey, I'm doing this coaching thing," and I was like, "Oh, wellness seems weird. I don't know if I'm into that." But we started talking, and then I bought into it, and I would say that the big thing for me was I was really at an avoidance point, which I think is sort of the deterioration from procrastination. Mm-hmm. And I think you get into some really bad habits, and I literally would hear myself explaining away why something wasn't possible, or I wasn't going to start doing it, and I had every excuse in the book. And so my summary of procrastination would be is really a mask of fear. I just get hung up on the sheer number of tasks in my day or in my life, and I brain through all of it. And then it's hard for me to decipher what's truly important or what is urgent. And then what I do is I start to consider the past and future of what these similar tasks have been or could be. And that does feed into the fear concept, and so you kind of want to put it off, and then you do get into an avoidance altogether. So I do think, though, that I've overcome a lot with that, and really focused on the want. I would say that was a powerful concept to say, hey, what do you actually
what do you want?
And so I think digging into that has been helpful, and then just remembering that I'm a fairly committed person, and I really like being tenacious and driving towards something. So I need to get into a state of, it's almost like that book Atomic Habits, where it's like habit stacking. I wonder if you could commit stack I don't know if that makes sense or not, but I
It's our new phrase, commitment
stacking,
stack.
yeah. So, and what I mean by that is I just commit to something, right? Like just related to your work, your job, from the project you're on, whatever it is. Count stickers, make some phone calls, do something, but don't. But like even if you don't even want to think of the thing that is scaring you or putting you into procrastination state, just put it to the side and do something. So it's almost like momentum
I'm gonna get really mad at you right now, though. I'm just gonna jump in, cut you off, let you know that I'm mad because you're literally stealing all the thoughts that I had on the topic. So now I just like have nothing to contribute. So this is just gonna be the Andy show and Can Thrive podcast, procrastination, avoidance, resistance. I mean, no, just messing with you. But I mean, really, you just hit the whole concept, the nail right on the head. You were surprised I used the word resistance, and that's because for me, it's a relatively new way of describing this whole constellation of things, emotions, thoughts, right? That are all relate to resisting or our resistance to taking action on something in a particular area, field, task, whether it's something creative, whether it's something entrepreneurship related, if it's something just personally relevant for you. And you're right, it shows up in so many different ways. It can show up as fear of doing the thing. It can show up as catastrophizing about what would be the worst outcome if I did X. It can just be regular run-of-the-mill doubt, or rationalizing away the reasons why I can't do this right now. And look, we all do it. I do it in my own life in specific tasks related to, for example, business. I see it a lot in clients that I coach, both from the perspective of exercise or nutrition, or separately in helping them to see and understand and create a path to improve their overall well-being. So separate from necessarily nutrition or exercise, but things in their life that they are knowing that they're wanting to possibly explore changing, but there's like this force within them that brings them to the point of not necessarily paralysis, but sort of in that contemplative state of change where they're just not really sure they're gonna plow ahead. They're not gonna roll the dice. They're not gonna take the risk and try and experiment just yet. There's something holding them back, if you will.
Yeah, the experiment piece too that you talk a lot about, I think, is key. It's sort of, if it almost dilutes the fear in a way, because you're like, it's just an experiment. Like, what's the worst thing that could happen if you tried to learn a new feature on your CRM platform, and you feel old and disconnected from all of the things that you need to know, and AI is taking over and all this. And I think that you just got to experiment, right? And and that goes back to actually that you're right, it is all connected. Sort of the concept of being childlike and
growth and fixed mindsets.
All that stuff. So I do think that's an important way to look at it. But it's not easy, right? Like I could start out in bed and in the morning and just not hardly be able to get engaged, because I almost wonder, like, what is the best habit to have it's like, could you have a thought habit, or something that would trigger you to not begin that roller coaster of processing all of that.
So here's the thing. I mean, my opinion on that is there's probably no single thing that you will do that is going to, quote unquote, work for you every single time. And there's certainly not something that's going to work for everybody most of the time or every single time. But there are a couple of ways to, in my opinion, look at it. I mean, the first is the awareness, right? When you notice yourself avoiding doing something or procrastinating on a task or rationalizing reasons why, you can't or you won't do it right now. recognize, like, okay, this thing that I'm experiencing now, this is resistance. Okay, this is sort of a universal thing. It's going to show up today. It's going to show up tomorrow. It's going to show up, 50 years from now in a different form. That's okay. I see you. I know you. Here's what I want to do about it, right? Once you've identified it's happening, you get a chance to now step back from it and sort of learn, okay, why is this showing up? What's the context? What else is going on around me? Why am I catastrophizing, let's say, but then just doing the thing? Like, that's the breaker of resistance is action. Because resistance literally wants to keep you in inaction. It wants to keep you safe. There's something on the other side of that action that somehow your psyche is telling you is risky or unsafe. But the minute you act regardless of that fear or that doubt or that catastrophizing, you realize, well, that was nowhere near as terrible as I built it up in my mind. It was just actually underwhelming. It was faster, it was easier, it was less uncomfortable, and you've grown because now you know you can do the thing. That memory is now stored in your subconscious as I have done the thing, therefore I can do the thing again. And now you start to, feed yourself for it. Doesn't mean you wake up tomorrow morning and resistance doesn't exist. But resistance exists now in the context of, but I did it.
Yeah, I do think you have to remember also that you have done the thing or done something similar. And so I almost like doing adjacent tasks or something that gets you going in that right direction because it's super real, right? Like, and everybody has this hang up, and this procrastination concept is just part of being human.
Yeah.
So it's
you brought up something, Andy, and I think you were trying to relate it to sort of entrepreneurial tasks. And this is a way that resistance shows up for me as well. When it comes to things that I do as a business owner and things that I avoid doing as a business owner, it takes me reminding myself that I have an opportunity to separate Jason the person from Jason's business enterprise. And the minute I step out of that personalization of it and recognize, okay, this is a thing that needs to be done, not for me as a human per se, but for the business entity, it becomes easier, right?
Yeah.
And it's switching the mindset over from, now I'm doing the job of a person employed within my business. And as that employee, I want to do a good job. I want to take responsibility for the job that I have, and I want to do it well. And so just like switching that mental role, suddenly the resistance doesn't melt away, but it fades a little bit into the background because now you're just being a professional.
Yeah, it's almost like you should have confidence in knowing because you're driving around pointing out how people should operate and what they should be doing in their own lives. As an observer, you're just like, or business or whatever it is, you're like, why didn't they do that? So you have opinions and you have a strong understanding of how things should work, but sometimes you don't apply them to your own business.
Yes.
And so it's kind of funny because I catch myself doing that too, where I'm like, well, I'm not exactly operating that efficiently either.
Right.
So maybe, but I know that's possible, and I know that some of the steps that need to be taken to achieve that. It's just sort of committing and having the confidence and the excitement to kind of do it. I had written down a note about micro commitments to just sort of like, I don't know if that's it just got me thinking about little things that I do each day that to try to get back on task is all it is. It could be I joked about sticker counting or something like that, or making calls in my job, or so I don't know if that's a good healthy tip, but something I do.
I think it's a good one. It sounds like sort of the way I think about big projects in terms of just what is the smallest bit that you could do that you feel confident you'll do, like slam dunk, no doubt you're going to get it done, and do that thing, because it's almost like entering the gym. Oh, I don't want to go work out, but the minute you enter the gym, you do one set, like the rest is done already. You just keep going. You enjoy
automatic.
Keep going.
I love that. I tell people that all the time. I'm like, just go. All you gotta
Just
do
go.
is go.
Just show up.
You
You
already
get
know
an
what to do.
A by showing up. You do, because once you're there and you start, you
Yep.
just tend to keep going, and you enjoy it and you work hard. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and it's the same thing if you take a tiny step in a process that you don't necessarily want to do, or it feels really daunting, or the end goal feels like, okay, it's impossible to get there. Okay, that's fine. Forget about the ultimate outcome. What's
Yep.
the first step in the process that I want to engage with? Let me just engage with that and see what happens.
Sure.
And the result may be nothing. You just do the one thing and you back off again. But okay, you can do the one thing, so maybe next time you do two. Or what's more likely to happen is you do the one little thing and you have a good experience, and it motivates you to do the second thing, and maybe the third, and maybe by the time you get to the fourth, okay, maybe that's challenging. So now okay, this is sort of a stumbling block, an obstacle, a point where maybe I need help to then be able to sort of jump that hurdle or transcend that obstacle that you encounter. But just starting with
To
something
do
small.
microdosing. I like it.
Microdosing. That's going to mean something different to everybody, but yeah, sure, I can get aboard with that.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, the piece that sort of keeps you going is not just the success, but you start to feel a bit inspired by what you've done. By the little bit that you did. It sort of lights a little spark inside of you that makes you want to keep going.
Yeah, you always get something out of it. It just feels good to accomplish something.
Yeah.
So I'm in agreement with that.
But the more you put yourself in that uncomfortable place, that the thing that you're trying to avoid, you just don't want to rip that band-aid off. You try it out, it didn't work. Guess what? You kind of learned at the same time, like, well, maybe that's not the way to swing, or that's not the timing of the swing. And then you start to think, well, okay, I'm having this particular challenge. What are creative ways? What are out of the box ways where I can, try to approach this next time, getting right back to our experimental mindset, right? We don't know if something's necessarily going to work, but we're not going to know it until we try it, right? So you try it, it works, great. Possibly, probably even more likely, it doesn't work. Okay. Did you fail? No, because you tried and you learned something. And now you get a chance to redefine success as either effort or taking a step in a process. And then that sort of feeds itself forward until someday, at some point, boom, the thing that you tried, the experiment, now it works.
Like it.
Yeah. So, I mean, guys, at the end of the day, don't expect that you're going to wake up every morning and all the things that you want to procrastinate on or avoid are going to just melt away. They're gone. No, it's going to show up probably as soon as you open your eyes. There's going to be something that you want to procrastinate on or avoid. And you'll know it because you'll feel sort of that nagging gnawing sensation of, anxiety or negative what ifs. And I challenge you, just recognize it's normal. So embrace that, recognize that fear, decide to take action regardless, and just open yourself up to the possibilities and the opportunity for learning. Recognizing that the more you sort of enter that arena, give it your best, you will continue to progress forward, and you will eventually win. Yeah, Andy, closing words from you?
To plug the brand, Can's always just been a nudge forward. That's all it's ever been, is just a nudge forward. So hopefully, for me, that's what I love about it is, if someone sees you, hiking down a trail and they're deep in thought and they're not the great thoughts, and they see that concept or brand. That's what I love about the idea of it. So to plug the brand, I was just thinking about that as it's just a nudge forward, and that's really what we're trying to do is to nudge you off of the fence to go one way or the other and have momentum. So
and I guess I'll say one more thing. If you know somebody who is sort of resisting or avoiding something that they know and is important to them and something they're wanting to do, then you can be that supportive friend in a sense, and just sort of help them to recognize it and see whether that's something that they would appreciate your help with approaching or tackling. Again, not that you are responsible for anyone's actions, but we're all sort of in this together. We're here to help other people, and if there's a way that you can help someone to overcome some aspect of resistance in their lives, then from my perspective, it's always going to be worthwhile.
And you win most compelling thing said in this particular segment.
Seriously, all right, with that, we better stop talking because I don't want to lose that title now.
Honestly, like that's the drop the mic component of all of it is really someone needs to help you often, or you need to help each other. So I really love that idea is that you got to observe your fellow human being and what they're going through and nudge them forward.
Awesome. All right, guys. So we will see you on the next one. Do I know what the topic is? No. So, if you got any ideas or topics that you would like us to address, then please, reach out to Andy, Spirit of Can on Instagram, or to me, Jason Carnegie _IF. Just reach us there. Send us a message. We're happy to tackle any topics or questions that you guys have in a future episode. All right, guys, if our conversation has been meaningful to you in any way today, then please would like to encourage you to support us through number one, subscribing to the Defeating Can podcast, which Andy regularly hosts. Of course, following the Spirit of Can on Instagram, and definitely go ahead and pick up a piece of Can merch from any of the retail outlets like Deja Vu Surf here on Kauai, or head online to thespiritofcan.com. We'll keep those links here below.
And be sure to follow Jason on LinkedIn and Instagram accounts and reach out to him by DM with any fitness, lifestyle, or well-being and performance-related questions you have. He'd love to learn more about you as he has with me and support your continued growth and well-being through coaching.
All right, guys, super important to keep in mind the context of all our conversations here in this series. And I am a certified health and well-being coach. I'm a personal trainer. I'm a fitness nutrition specialist. But at the end of the day, I am not a physician. I am not a therapist. I'm not a registered dietitian. So it's really important to keep that in mind and consult with your preferred healthcare provider, whether that be a medical doctor or a therapist, to ensure that your particular needs are being met specifically by a trained professional.
And just as Jason mentioned, the discussions and concepts discussed in this podcast are for informational purposes only. If the can't in your mind ever becomes too much, we encourage you to consult with a professional. As I've always said, can't ask for help. You remember this sticker? You've probably seen it in order or out in the world. We've given away thousands of these, as it's so important that we want you to reach out when you need it.